with the offer he'd received.
On the surface, everything was fine, but there was great difficulty in paying some of the bills. He had people to support in Egypt. There were people in London. One of his granddaughters was in a convent school in France, and her fees and her people who were looking after her had to be paid. And there was such a lot of people crammed here into this one house.
But this led to the emperor asking Pop if he would kindly take the items of jewellery, which included diamonds and other stones, to the firm in London for them to appraise. So, the offer having been accepted, Pop took the jewellery to London for the emperor by train and sold it.
Rumours began to spread in the following years that the emperor still owed money to the city for unpaid bills. Stories of theft and extravagant spending inevitably followed.
I definitely have been given proof that everything was paid up afterwards. I think all these stories continued to try and discredit the emperor.
Life continued in Bath at Fairfield House in emotional and financial difficulty for another 4 years of exile before the situation seemed to change. It is now 1939, and 5 years previously, Haile Selassie clearly warned the League of Nations about the impending danger of ignoring Ethiopia's plight at the hands of the powerful Italian aggressor. These fears, which Haile Selassie strongly articulated to the leaders of the most powerful nations on earth, were now coming to pass to the astonishment of the world. We had repeatedly warned the rest of the world that the unprovoked military aggression which Italy unleashed, and whose conflagration was confined to Ethiopia, Abyssinia, was fraught with dangerous consequences that would extend to Europe. This prophetic warning, which went unheeded then, came to be recognized only when Italy formed an alliance with Germany and declared war on Britain and France.
Everywhere is war. It's a war that until they're no longer first class and second class citizens of any nation.
The change didn't take place until mid-1940. Italy stayed out of the Second World War until June 1940, but when Mussolini came in on Hitler's side, that meant that there was a massive Italian garrison, very strategically placed on the southern Red Sea, and posing a major danger to the British and Allied war effort. But equally, that was a danger that could only be removed with close collaboration, not just with Haile Selassie, but with the Ethiopian resistance or patriots, who were already posing a major challenge to the Italians. And so bringing Haile Selassie on board in global strategic terms was absolutely central to the Allied war effort.
At that point, the Abyssinian-Italian conflict was no longer marginalized to the fringes of political concerns, and almost over became the central issue for peace in the whole of Europe.
The ex-emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, is now in a position to bring his influence to bear against the Italian occupation of the land which he once ruled. In Sudan, with his sons beside him, he studies a map of Abyssinia, doubtless planning further action against Italy. One can imagine Haile Selassie's thoughts now that hard blows are being struck against his enemies. Abyssinia was the first land to be seized by the aggressor. It would be appropriate should it be the first to be liberated.
It was as if nothing had changed, whilst at the same time, everything had changed. To put it bluntly, the Allies now felt it was an appropriate time to help save innocent Ethiopian lives, but only when they conveniently realized the security of the whole of Europe was also under threat. This expedience shocked non-Europeans all over the world.
It aroused outrage amongst Africans and people of African descent in West Africa, in Eastern Africa, in the United States and the Caribbean. And so it made the Second World War into a war of liberation rather than just a war between European states. When the Allies reconquered Ethiopia in 1941, They published a pamphlet about it, which was called The First to be Freed. And the inspiration of Haile Selassie was enormously helpful and gave a considerable boost to the movement for liberation in Africa as a whole.
On the 5th anniversary of the entry of Italian troops into Abyssinian capital, His Majesty Haile Selassie returns in triumph to Addis Ababa. A great ovation is given him by his subjects, who witness the moving spectacle of their emperor attending a Thanksgiving service at the Cathedral of St. George, his first act on returning to the throne of Ethiopia.
On this occasion of our entry into our territory and our reunion with our people, we also do not forget the great people of Great Britain, who accorded us such a warm and cordial reception. We will never forget our indebtedness to those people and for the encouragement they gave us at a time of our distress.
This is a letter that Pop received, dated the 26th of August 1941. Dear Mr. Smith, I cannot forget the very kind services you rendered to me and my family during my stay in Bath, which I have always appreciated. If by any chance either you or your son will pay us a visit here, we shall be delighted, as it will remind us of your sympathy which we used to enjoy in Bath. I hope you are in good health and continue to be so. Yours sincerely. It's signed by the Emperor.
Lot 1, 2, 3, interesting lot here is the 2 African carved walking sticks, modelled with tribal figures, reputedly formerly belonging to Emperor Haile Selassie, who lived in Bath for a number of years.
Even though the Emperor and Empress were now restored on their rightful thrones, thousands of miles away in Ethiopia, the mystical link with the city of Bath had still not been broken.
The period of time that the king lived in Fairfield was a period of time, as we know, when the world itself was coming into war. And when he returned to Ethiopia, yes, he named a palace, a house, Fairfield, for the fond memories that it had in that time when he needed support of the world. And I suppose he returned and named the palace Fairfield. And there is lots of things that he renamed in respect to Bath in Ethiopia. So Fairfield is one thing, and he also named many churches when he returned in respect to his love of Bath. If you're the light of the world, you can travel anywhere. You know, you have no animosity to your enemies, and to live in a city that is ancestrally Roman, and it says a lot. And I mean, some things you have to leave to the mystery of God.
This is his first visit for many years. He was last in this country as a refugee after Mussolini's troops had invaded his kingdom. The Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen Mother greet the Emperor, who is known to his own people as the King of Kings, the conquering Lion of Judah, elect of God, power of the Trinity.
The Emperor next came back to England in 1954 with an official state greeting that contrasted greatly with the first time he arrived in 1935. Now that Ethiopia was officially an ally, and Italy an enemy, the Emperor no longer was made to feel like a hidden, unwanted guest by the state.
Later, during a state banquet at the palace, the Queen officially greets the Emperor with the words, "I would like to think that in England you will always feel at home."
He came back again to the city of Bath in 1954 to receive the honour of the freemen of the city of Bath. The freedom of the city is probably the highest award that the city can bestow on any individual, and it has been bestowed in the past on very important people like Earl Haig, Winston Churchill,